Hey guys, this is Brandon, TK32917. I want to do a video to talk to you guys about how to trim the ears, which are the bane of a lot of people's existence, but I'm going to show you it doesn't really have to be as hard as you think it is. There's a little bit of math involved here, but I promise no algebra PTSD. We're going to keep the numbers out of it. But if you take a look at this helmet, I want to give you an example of what the results can look like. I mean, those ears are fit pretty tight there, really no gap to speak of. Like same thing on the back. And I got a little bit there, but I think that's more from when it torqued down with the screws. But so that's what we can do, and you can do it without having to hand fit, and place it and hand fit like over and over. So what we're gonna use is a compass, like a drawing compass like this. And the reason why is, what we want to do is we want to trace the contour of the helmet onto the ear. And the reason, well, let me just show you on this one, for example. So if you were going to trim this ear, what you could do is take this compass and you would, let's see which way does it go, squeeze it down. If you had a gap, like let's say I wanted to get rid of that tiny gap, which is nuts, but whatever. I got the needle here and the pencil. So what you could do is, essentially you're going to take the needle, place it against the plastic and it'll slide, and then you would trace against the ear all the way around, and the pencil will mark on the ear. See if I can get it. The pencil would mark on the ear as you go around. This is hard to do holding the camera at the same time. But that's basically, get the idea, right? And then we would trim on that line. Important thing, so you do not ruin your ears. Do not skip this part of the video. The most important thing is that however your helmet is when you trace it, you gotta keep the orientation of the compass, and by orientation I mean like twisting it or whatever, the same. If you twist the compass as you go around the contour, if you cut against that, you've just ruined the ears. And the reason why is this. If I was tracing this, if I start the compass this way, I want the compass to go around the curve and stay in that orientation all the way around. Don't let it wander with the curve. So the reason why is this. Remember from algebra class, we've got a graph here, a crazy graph. If we want to take this line and move it up, which would be what we call a y offset, it's just taking the exact same curve and shifting it up. All we're doing is every point on this curve, we're moving it in that direction only, just up from here, just up from here, just up. And that would take the whole thing and move it without warping it. So what we would do with our compass to do that is, I may have to do this looking and then fix the camera. Let's say you got from a point and you got straight up, right? And if we were to keep the compass in the same orientation and trace it, I'm trying to look at two things at once. So let's just trace this line with the compass pointed up. And by pointed up, I mean the pencil and the needle are always oriented straight vertically from each other. Now that's not pretty because, I'm looking at the camera at the same time. So now let's say that one's right. If you look at the curve, it's the same, it's just shifted, it's just transplanted that way. Now let's say if I take this and I just let it wander all around. I'm going to move this here, I'm going to follow the curve. Oops. See what I just did? See that? That's why. Because in this instance we're offsetting it just straight up and down, and in this instance we let it wander. So we've offset it up and slightly to the right. So you've got multiple movements on that point. You went from straight up, see the difference? So, okay, as long as you understand that, see if we cut against that, we just made it fit in some places, but we just introduced a crazy gap in other places, and then you have to go trim that again, and then again, and again, and then you're getting gaps in different places as you wander the pencil, and you're like, well, why in the hell do I have gaps in weird places? That's why. So let's say I've got a couple of unfinished helmets here. Now you would do this when it's bolted together, of course, but for the sake of showing you, let's say that ear goes there, right? Now, of course, you'd want the helmet bolted together and all that, and then you would hold this up here. Now, what you would want to do is get the ear. This is an AM2, so it's pre-trimmed. I mean, it's already ready to just fine-tune fit. But if you had one that was totally untrimmed, and by that I mean it's like a piece that's like comes out totally flat, just cut it generally in the shape. And then what you would do is take the piece and just move it straight in until it touches. I can't, this is really hard to do and hold the camera. But, so let's say that was there. Can I put something here to hold it? No, you're gonna have to take my word for it. But, what you would do is take the compass and trace around here and get it close. And then, like, once you trim that little bit, then you put the thing up here and it's gonna lay a lot more flat than it did before. And you don't have to go in one shot, especially if the ear is like rough trimmed and it doesn't really lay on there flat, it's kind of doing this. Just hold it in the correct orientation of the ear, not twisted or anything, just flat up against as close as you can. And then, you know, move the compass out so that you kind of close that gap, trace a good enough line with the ear in the right orientation, cut it once, and then when you lay it, it'll lay flat. And then you can go around and do your fine trace of the ear. So, like for this one, if you wanted to, if I needed, like, say, however much gap, I realize this is a really crap video because I'm trying to hold it at the same time, but I didn't think my head-mounted GoPro would get the fine details of the pencil line. So if you had this, right, here's my needle is against the helmet, and I would just hold it and trace against the ear. But see, I'm keeping the compass in the same orientation. I'm not letting it wander around the curve. See? And like it'll straight up. Even if I have like a tiny little bit here, if I trace on here, it will give me a line that follows. I'm trying to, well, didn't mark it good, but I kind of got some pencil, but you can kind of see. You can do it much better if you're not trying to hold a camera and look at two things at once, but that's pretty much what I'm talking about. Just that is the important thing to understand. So if you have questions, hit me up, but that's pretty much it. See ya.